The 2012 election by the numbers, or why I am voting for Obama. Have you found yourself watching the debates on television and yelling at the candidates or at the moderator? Say this, ask him that, make him answer. I do. To me, as an economist, what is missing are the numbers. So here they are. First, jobs. The unemployment rate is currently 7.8%. Employment began to tank in January of 2008. Obama came into office in January of 2009, and the stimulus was passed shortly thereafter. Job losses began to drop, and by March of 2010, new jobs were being created. At this point, the stimulus wound down and job growth continued, but never picked up steam. Today, there are around 868,000 more private sector jobs than when Obama came into office, and over 5 million new private sector jobs since the trough of the recession. Still, job growth remains weak. The deficit is $1.1 trillion, slightly down from $1.2 trillion of the last Bush budget, but still unacceptably high. Income and wealth. In this country, the top 400 individuals now have more wealth than the bottom 50% of the country. That makes us one of the most unequal countries on the planet. In terms of wealth distribution, we now rank with Uganda, Rwanda, and Ecuador. The top 1% of the population holds 1/3 of the wealth of the country. The bottom 80% of the population holds less than 15% of the wealth. Median income has stagnated, while the rich have grown richer. Finally, taxes. First, understand that there are two types of federal income taxes in this country. One is called simply federal income tax. The top 53% of the population pays this. The other is called payroll tax. This is paid disproportionately by low and middle income workers. Many middle income workers pay both types of taxes. Romney famously called the 47% who do not pay federal income tax victims and dependents who believe that the government owes them something. He had apparently forgotten about retirees, overseas military, and those who pay payroll taxes. Some pay a greater percentage of their income in taxes than Romney does. Taxes contribute to wealth and income inequality and are unfair. Romney, for example, pays less than 15% income tax and no payroll tax. A family making $60,000 pays over 25% in income tax and payroll taxes combined. Yes, both Warren Buffett and Mitt Romney pay lower rates than their secretaries. When asked whether he thought this was fair, Romney said, yes. So now to the debate. Romney wants to give a 20% tax break to those in the top 53% who pay federal income tax. So already we see that his tax plan favors those in the top 53% and ignores the bottom 47% who pay payroll taxes and other taxes. In fact, 85% of this tax break will go to the top 20% of income earners. Let me say this again, 85% of this tax break will go to the top 20%. This will increase the deficit by as much as $500 billion a year, raising the deficit from $1.1 trillion to $1.6 trillion. To make up for this $500 billion in lost revenue, Romney and Ryan say they will close loopholes. They say that their plan is revenue neutral. And this is where I find myself yelling at the television. Make them say which loopholes they will close. They refuse to say, and no one seems to call them on it. When Paul Ryan was asked about this in the vice presidential debate, he said that Congress will work it out. In fact, the only thing that Romney and Ryan do say is that they will not close the capital gains or dividend loopholes that advantage the rich. These are the loopholes that allow Romney to pay 14%, while you and I pay more. When pressed, Romney did say that he will stop subsidizing Big Bird, that is, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Okay, this saves $400 million out of the $500 billion hole created by their tax break to the rich. This is less than 0.1% of the hole they will create. It turns out that once you take the capital gains and dividend loopholes off the table, 90% of the other loopholes are deductions and credits that benefit the poor and middle classes. So do the arithmetic. If you give the rich a tax break and fail to close their loopholes, then the rich will pay less. If the rich pay less and the plan is revenue neutral, the poor and middle class will end up paying more. The Nonpartisan Tax Policy Institute came to the same conclusion. Honestly, if someone came to you with a plan that would blow a $500 billion hole in your budget and could not give you any details about how that hole would be filled, what would you say? Right. Of course, Romney claims that lowering the tax rate on rich people will create jobs. However, this has not been borne out by history. During Clinton's administration, tax rates on the rich were higher, and yet unemployment was low and the economy boomed. Indeed, Germany and the Scandinavian countries have higher tax rates. better social services, and lower unemployment. It is time that we stop thinking that the cure to the economy is to give more and more money to the rich. Again, the wealthiest 400 people already have more wealth than the bottom half of the population. This too makes me want to yell, how much money do you guys need to be happy anyway? But this isn't even the worst thing about their plan. Even if you believe they can find $500 billion of loopholes, there is still $1 trillion deficit. After all, they say that their plan is revenue neutral. This deficit creates huge pressures to cut social programs. Indeed, they plan to balance the budget by cutting Social Security, by raising retirement age, etc., and by voucherizing Medicare. If there was any doubt that Romney intended to do this, it was laid to rest by the selection of Paul Ryan as Romney's running mate. Ryan is the architect of a budget, passed by the House with overwhelming Republican support, that would have drastically cut social programs and ended Medicare as we know it, and replaced it with a voucher system. Fortunately, the Senate said no. Today, medical coverage under Medicare is guaranteed. Under a voucher system, if the voucher does not cover your insurance, you will have to pick up the difference. In a cynical move, Romney and Ryan promised seniors that they will not voucherize their Medicare, just that of their children and grandchildren, so they shouldn't worry. Fortunately, seniors do care about their children and grandchildren, and if the system isn't good enough for current seniors, what makes you think it will be good enough for their children and grandchildren? Sensing a backlash, Romney and Ryan now claim that people will have the option to continue on Medicare. The problem is, with the huge deficit, there will be no money to fund it. Medicare as we know it will eventually be eliminated. So that is the Romney-Ryan plan. What about Obama? Obama will raise taxes, but do so by making the rich pay their fair share. Taxes on those under $250,000 will remain the same. Romney and his rich friends, on the other hand, will lose the capital gains and dividend loopholes, and their tax rates will go up to where they were under Presidents Reagan and Clinton. Yes, they will end up paying higher rates than their secretaries. This is not revenue neutral. The Obama plan will raise new revenues, and in doing so will provide funding to protect Social Security and Medicare, to invest in infrastructure, and to reduce the deficit. Of course, this is no silver bullet either, but at least it takes us in the right direction. A word on Obamacare. We cannot evaluate Romney without considering his plan to repeal Obamacare. Let me say first that we from Massachusetts have been living with Obamacare, we call it Romneycare, since 2006. 98% of our citizens have health insurance. Those who cannot afford it, we subsidize. In short, it works and people like it. This is evidence that once implemented nationally, it will work. It will not cause the budget to blow up, and people will like it. By the way, some conservative commentators have called it socialized medicine or a government takeover. It isn't. My insurance company is Blue Cross Blue Shield, and I go to a private doctor. I am very happy with the care. Romney and his conservative allies have a list of all the bad things that will happen with Obamacare. Jobs will be lost. Entrepreneurs will be discouraged. Small business will stop investing. Taxes will go up. Again, all I have to say is come to Massachusetts. The system works well and people like it. Currently, there are 50 million people in the country who cannot afford health insurance. None are in Massachusetts. Obamacare will give these people affordable health care. Romney and Ryan want to repeal Obamacare. They say that the states will do it. The problem is the states are not doing it. That is why 50 million poor and middle-income people, and many of these are kids, are uninsured. Repealing Obamacare is just another cut in the safety net for the poor, just to be able to preserve and extend tax breaks to the rich. So let's summarize. The Romney-Ryan plan will effectively transfer more money from the poor and middle class to the rich and will do nothing to address the deficit. Again, just do the arithmetic. Their job plan is simply to give more money to the rich and deregulate big corporations. This didn't work under Bush, and there is no evidence that it will work now. The big budgetary pressures caused by the tax breaks to the rich will force cutbacks on Social Security and Medicare. Indeed, under their plan, Medicare as we know it will cease to exist. Romney and Ryan will kill the Affordable Care Act and thereby take affordable health insurance away from 50 million people who currently cannot afford health insurance. In contrast, Obama will increase revenues by asking the rich to pay their fair share, use the revenues to preserve Medicare and Social Security, to make investments in infrastructure, and to reduce the deficit, preserve the Affordable Care Act, and thereby give affordable health insurance to 50 million people who currently cannot afford health insurance. Put people back to work through investments in education, training, and new technologies. 5 million new public sector jobs have been created since March of 2010, but much more needs to be done. Someone said that the Republican argument for electing Romney and Ryan is this: We Republicans completely messed up the economy. Obama hasn't fixed it fast enough, so put us back in. And by the way, we are going to do exactly what we did before. That is, give tax breaks to the rich and deregulate big corporations. Somehow I think we can do better than this. With a fair tax system, there is enough money to preserve Social Security, Medicare, and the Affordable Care Act, to make reasonable education and infrastructure investments, and to reduce the deficit. That is the 2012 election by the numbers, and why I am supporting Obama. If you would like to see this discussed in greater detail, please click on www.jpcentral.org/election. Thanks.